Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you tonight to our Alteras panel discussion. Tonight we will be speaking about our current exhibition, Last Sunset, New Sunrise. As many of you might know, or others might not know, the idea of doing this exhibition came from our manifesto, which was declared in 2019. We did a manifesto about questions because we felt that in such a changing society and dynamic society, it didn't make any sense really to have static statements. And these questions were around various topics. And one of these questions was if we are going towards the last sunset or the new sunrise. And we started planning this exhibition even before the pandemic and COVID. And I guess during the pandemic and the lockdowns, the concept was even more strong and made even more sense. And that's how we decided to come out with this exhibition. So Alteras is a London-based multidisciplinary art collective that questions pressing issues at the forefront of our contemporary context. I am Tere Chat, one of the curators. I have co-curated the exhibition together with another of the exhibiting artists who's called Christopher Pearson. And the exhibiting artists are Cesar Baracas, who is tonight with us. I'll introduce him later. Lorenzo Belenguer, Lois Bentley, Mandeep Dijon, Paul Hindley, Margaret Ed Jennings, Maritina Kellery, M. Lorum, Natalie May, who's also with us tonight, Tom Norris, Teresa Paiva, Christopher Pearson, Ana Luisa Rodriguez, who's also with us, Ludmila Sigismondo, Alexander Tishkov, and Giuseppe Mario Urso, who's also joining us. So to start tonight, I would like to introduce each of our speakers. So first I would like to start with Cesar Baraca. He was born in Argentina and is based in London since 1999. Baraca works on projects with multiple techniques and materials exploring the themes of finance, power, and value. His work is part of the Castagnino Macro Museum collection in Rosario, Argentina, and the Centro Internazionale de Arte Contemporanea in Rome, Italy. So I don't know if you would like to expand a bit more about your practice, Cesar, before we continue with other introductions.
Well, no, I think you covered all the big points. But basically, yeah, I'm working with priorities and power and money. And obviously, during the pandemic, it was very inspiring for me just to create new projects as well. So here we are.
Thank you, Cesar. Now I would like to continue introducing Natalie May, an artist working and living in Berlin, Germany. Natalie May, it's a multidisciplinary, Natalie May's multidisciplinary practice. Sorry, there was a bit of interference. Natalie May's multidisciplinary practice is informed by the idea of image generating and image recycling as a conduit to transform a fragmented and ephemeral reality into tangible environments. Her work seeks connection between the emotional worlds of the viewer and the concept of time. Hello, Natalie. Would you like to expand a bit more about your practice?
Yeah, you phrased everything very well. I think it's on point. Yeah, like you said, I'm very interested in how intellectual aspects and emotional aspects of reality processing are relating to image generation within us or also through visual data. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Natalie. Tonight we're also being with Ana Luisa Rodriguez. She's an artist who emphasizes the relationship between beauty and meaninglessness. You'll have to tell me how to pronounce that. Beyond the confrontation with everyday objects. Her practice investigates the intertwining between the real and the surreal through the abstract, poetic, and aesthetic of everyday life. She's also a member of Bora Girls Brazilian collective. Would you like to expand a bit more, Ana Luisa?
Yes, thank you, Teddy. Well, you explained very well, like what my practices mean, but to try to clarify a little bit more, I have this idea to play about the beauty and the meaningless of the object, and play with the found object. It's all the time related to my own, to my life, what I'm living and feeling at the moment. And yes, I'm part of the Bora Girls as well. It's a Brazilian collaborative artist, normally based in London. I'm not in London at the moment. I moved to Hamburg, but we still, in practice and to try to not only to develop our work, but to explore about Latin America humans and artists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ana Luisa. So to the people who might be watching the panel, I want to let you know that you can add questions in the YouTube chat to the speakers that we're going to take at the end. And the idea is that we're going to keep this as an informal conversation so that people can get to know more about our current exhibition. So before we go in deep into the exhibition, I would like to ask Giuseppe.
You should introduce. You want to introduce me or not?
Sorry, Giuseppe. Sorry
I'm
about
not
that.
so famous that I need an introduction.
Sorry about that. That was a mistake. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're totally
No, I
right.
take as a
I
compliment.
thought I had introduced you. Well, so Giuseppe Mario Urso, he's a British European artist living in London. Urso's artistic practice is characterized by mixing elements of pop culture with commonplace objects and icons in a humorous way so as to turn meanings and beliefs upside down. His work challenges long-established perceptions of reality and suggests alternative interpretations of what we see, smell, touch, hear, and fear. So now, Giuseppe, apologize about that.
Oh, fine.
Would you like to speak more about your practice?
Well, this is a research, basically, that questioning what I see myself and how I can explore a different way to approach reality, because everyone has his own interpretation of the reality, and mine is, of course, different from the other, but also I try to challenge it to see. Then I play a lot with icons or image very clear, that, and then I try to manipulate it to see if I can found something different, and try to give different emotion from what I produce, because I think it's important artists touch some feelings from the people who come to see your piece. But it's always a long process, and I'm questioning all the time.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. So now, as I was mentioning before, I want to invite the members of the audience to add questions into our chat if they feel like. And the idea is to keep this as an informal conversation, and also to give more details and information about our current exhibition. So before we go in detail to the exhibition, I wanted to start asking Giuseppe if the heritage influences your practice.
Say again. I can't hear. Say again, sorry.
If the heritage influences your practice.
Well, I'm Italian, although now I am also British. And this is quite an interesting process for me, because before coming to this country, I have only a lot of stereotype about England. And when I came here, I started to process all the new things I discovered. And I think now in my practice, there is, of course, the strong influence, the Italian influence that is very deep. but also I try to be open to other experience. And in London, there is not only the British experience. We have, like in our groups, we have artists from all over the world. And this is a great chance, an opportunity to include a new way to see the world. I think this affects my production. I hope, at least. And certainly, I will not do what I'm doing if I was in Italy. I will be more Italian. And I think the same experience will be maybe for all of you that travel quite a lot.
But then how does it feel, for example, for someone like Ana Luisa, who comes from a newer country like Brazil, and maybe doesn't has like it's a different type of history. So do you think that heritage affects on your practice?
Yes, I have the same feeling of Giuseppe, because I'm Brazilian, I'm born in São Paulo, but I have Italian heritage from my mother's side. And I used to live in London for almost 10 years, and now I moved to Germany. I'm in Hamburg. I think this whole kind of this process, and it's not appropriation, but the way of living and express and feel the world, of course, is in your head and make you transform in one point, the way you're created, the way you see stuff and try. And I can say regardless of my practice, because my practice is very, very, all the time is very personal, and depends how I'm feeling, where I'm living. I think it transpares, and it's like a mirror what myself. I agree with Giuseppe. It depends how you're living. Really, it's your heritage, and change your practice in one way. I think in a good way.
That's, well, I guess it's also, but today I was speaking with a Russian artist about the importance of traveling and getting to see different things, because I think it embraces creative practices. And also the concept is not only embodied by an idea, it's also embodied by materials. So I would like to ask Cesar, which is your relationship or with materials, and how do you select them?
Basically, I start with an idea, and as soon as I have a clear idea, I try to look for the right material to represent that idea. The material could be anything. Usually I'm working with recycling materials. And also I like to work with material talks, which can material with a powerful material, we can always telling you already something. I used to work with the credit cards, and it's a very powerful material. Again, recycling credit cards. I'm working now with toilet paper rolls, another powerful material become during the pandemic. So as soon as I have an idea, I choose the right material. So for me, the material is very important in my piece for that reason.
Well, I guess that we will have an opportunity to see images about your work later. And I also guess that in the case of Natalie, the selection of materials is quite important. So I would like to know, Natalie, is there a fundamental point you consider in your creation process?
I think that because my work is very durational, and so I think there's no point. It's more like it's maybe something which expands and shrinks into the same time and goes sideways and upwards and downwards. And so I make works often over a couple of years. I review them, I completely change them. And it's not like version 1 of it and then it's the next version. It's like, I think it's like process-based work. And I think fundamental points like temporarily don't exist, but they are like in a very long term, like one point maybe, if that makes sense.
Yes, it actually does. I guess we all it's impossible to think of art as something isolated to the context where you're involved. And I think that has to do with personal lives and also like the collective experience, because you're both affected by the collective experience, even with isolation, because we've all been isolated in a way. So I guess
absolutely
the creative process is always impacted by a certain context.
Yeah, I think so. And so the works I have in the show, they are made, like one is made between 2018 and 2021. And it's somehow, it embeds all what happened in there, but also it just is made of material. It's made of salt, aluminium, and paper. And salt is something very precious, but also in some cultures related to death, or they are like, or purifying, or it's the essence of water, like in the sea. And so I'm looking I don't think that I look for materials. I think it's more that I have, like we all have all these images in our heads, and this didn't come up with digitals. It was there always. We see, we preserve, and it merges with the next image and so on and so on. And then if there's a connection between my inner image and an outer image I found before, and there's the material, they talk to each other. And we talked about this kind of powerfulness this creates, maybe this charge, but because it's so charged. Then I start working with it, but I can't, it's like a bit before language in this moment, like with all of us, maybe.
Thank you, Natalie. So now I would like to start introducing some images of our exhibition so that the people who watch this can have an idea of what the show is about. So can you all see the screen? Yeah. So this is St. John Church in Bethnal Green. This is a listed building that was designed by the English architect Sir John Soane, that he's mostly known for being the architect of the Bank of England. It's a very interesting place to work on, because you're not normally used as an artist to work with a site that has such a strong cultural and like a strong presence as well. It has a big baggage in a way. It's not an easy space to work with. At the moment they're restoring it, and they also have a cultural program for the local community. So there you have another image of the church. And what we wanted to do throughout this exhibition was building up two different atmospheres. So one that represented the last sunset and open up questions if this is the end of the world, if it's the apocalypse, if everything that's going on is going to bring us to something even worse. And we wanted to play with the light. So one of the conditions of this room was that all the artwork submitted had to be black. And we are playing with LED light to simulate the lighting of the sunset, in contrast to the room of the sunrise. So the idea here is to express that maybe through this crisis, something positive will come out. And maybe we will manage to face climate change. We will manage to build better ways of dealing with social challenges and inequalities. And maybe it's a space for hope. And this is actually, the previous room is the belfry, and this is the North Gallery, which is actually one of the rooms at the sides of the church, which they normally don't use it for the service, but they just use it for arts exhibition. And the condition in this room was to apply with works that were mainly white. And we played with some gels and red lighting to simulate the lights of the dawn. So this is, for example, one of Natalie's images. I would like you to expand, Natalie, a bit more on your work.
So this is the other part of the works which are currently in the church. I talked earlier about the sculpture I made, which is also in the same room, which is based on aluminium, salt, and paper. This one though, is coexisting this photographic work with one in the Black Room. I took in 2018 an image of a line, which is the essence for me of a horizon, or the sunset and the sunrise. That's where they meet. And so, and I developed out of this one single image two completely different works. I developed them simultaneously in time, and over like a duration of a year. I left it a little bit and then I started working on it. And that's something what I do very often with photographic works or with moving image. I montage a lot from one single piece and build up or create a whole new environment in this image.
Okay, this is mine.
Yes, sorry, I was mute. So now we come from Natalie's piece to Giuseppe's piece. And the reason why before I was asking about the heritage is because I think that this piece is strongly connected with heritage. So maybe you can explain better, Giuseppe, than myself.
First, as a starting point, when I saw, I knew that the exhibition was in this church, I was very interested to work with the architect. Then I thought choosing a window and knowing the architect that he loves windows and he loved working with reflection and light. Then I thought I want to do the same. And then I start to play with the concept and to choose an image that can represent also the theme of our exhibition. And I chose an unfinished, as an inspiration, an unfinished etching by Dürer, Adam and Eve. Dürer did few etchings with the same subject, some completed, and one was unfinished. That maybe was the moment of inspiration to the idea of the creation of Adam and Eve as unfinished. And I like the contrast with the concept that is an unfinished creation. And then I started to play with the image. It was very, very beautiful experience for me to work with Dürer, because you can see, I felt honored, and it was magical, because it was like to connect with the artist, an artist that I admire a lot. And then I start to play, of course, with my way of approach, what we know about the creation. And then I start to think about we always associate creation with life. We never think that when we have the creation, we have life, but also on the other hand, we have the death. And then I play with the skull. All the background of the two figures are skulls, and the piece is very difficult to see when you are in the place, and that was interesting to see how the visitors react. And it was a pleasure for me to see people coming close to the piece and try to read the piece. That in this beautiful picture, really you can see, but sometimes was very difficult. That was part of the game, of the experience, I thought. And yes, that's it.
I also think there's an interesting connection between what you were saying about the unfinished piece and the state of this building, because the building, it's a finished building, let's say, but it is also quite deteriorated. So I think there's an interesting connection there, or maybe it kind of like merges.
Yes, there is also the fact, for example, that even is not entirely the building by Sohn, because I think there were further modification. And in fact, I look around the building to see what I thought was Sohn, because he has a specific signature in lines. And it's very a modern architect. In fact, some bit of him looks almost Art Deco when he's a Georgian Regency architect. then no, it's quite interesting to work in this kind of space. And the other thing I thought that using the window, and they became the Adam and Eve, they became the spectator of the sunrise, maybe, or the sunset. Then it's an open piece. In fact, someone asked me why I didn't do a piece for the dark room, for the sunset. And then I thought, because when I imagined this piece, I thought also the contropiece in the dark room as the apocalypse, the end of the process in biblical narrative. And then I thought, no, that will be an answer why this piece is just questioning if we are in a sunset, in a future with the sunset or sunrise. Then if I did the apocalypse, maybe it will be just an answer that I didn't want to give. I think it's important, an open question, like we agree as a group to work with.
And then, well, there we can see a piece of Teresa Paiva that she used for a performance that was related to yoga with Sarah. I'll find a better image of your work, Cesar, because that one is a bit... this is a piece of Margaret Jennings. It was interesting because there were different captions and writing of her experience during lockdown that seems, in a way, it makes you feel tender because it makes you relate with it. So for example, this is an image of a bulb in her room, and then it says, found, oh long life, energy saving light bulb. Luckily, because I couldn't find a shop open to sell me a new one. So it's quite poetic in a way. Then we have here Natalie's piece. Would you like to speak a bit more about this piece?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the title of the work is In Between We Swim. And I developed it between 2018 and this year. I started experimenting with salt and paper on aluminium in my home region where I was born. It's the Balearic Islands. And yeah, using seawater there and salt I harvested from the shores, and continued this project up till, yeah, for the show. So I was interested in like I said before, there's some, I think in like there's not really a peak in, we see things like in the world, and there's like we extract them while we are perceiving them, and then we think like, this happens, and we see this very big. But this work is trying to somehow to highlight that we are living in times of, we live in a duration, and whatever happens, there will happen something else. And the salt is always there, like as a material of what we are, what is around us, what we made, and maybe what we will make. And yeah, so.
Well, actually, salt was also like an item for transactions before money. So I think that's always something very interesting that maybe relates to Cesar works, but we're going to reach it when we find an image. And this is a general view of the room. And there we can see Ana Luisa's piece. Maybe we can find a better image, Ana Luisa. This is Lorenzo's drawings, and that there are still lives and a body. And here we arrive to Ana Luisa's piece. So would you like to expand on it, Ana Luisa?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Teddy. Well, the name of this piece is Balada in Portuguese, but mainly like a party. And I have this mix of feeling and this anxiety after this month of lockdown to go out and to see the world, to see the sunrise. And the idea, the concept of this work was really, I constructed this piece over this lockdown experience in London. And I have this appropriation and this interference about play, about time and place. And I reproduced like a door, not a main door because of the space and the location. To have a sometimes you need to adapt it to have in your mind, and you create and transform your work. And I reproduced like a garden door, a small door, and the radio stuck in the middle of the door is related to my heritage, to my hometown, because I'm born in the 70s, and the only way to hear the news, to have this, to listen to the music, it was in the radio. And I have this play about time and place and this and science, and to go out and to see the sunrise. That's this working about.
Well, I guess we all want to go dancing after this.
Yes, please. Do something
Yes, I
more
was listening to
exciting.
this podcast in the BBC from Nihal, I forgot his surname, and he was interviewing different people that have been partying in the UK after the opening up the country.
Yeah.
And people sound so happy and so excited. So well, let's hope that this last and that we managed to overcome this pandemic, or we managed to learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
This is a bit of the other curator of Christopher Pearson, and he has one print in the sunrise room and the other one in the sunset room that are quite similar but with opposite colors. And well, there's another view of the exhibition room. And now we arrived to Cesar Works in the sunset room. So going back to what Natalie was speaking about the salt, I always find it interesting that it was used as an item of value to exchange things. And I know that your practice is quite connected with the idea of value. So I would like you to expand a bit more on this piece.
Yeah, well, I had two pieces. One is white, and this one is the black one. There are 32 toilet rolls painted with acrylic. The size is about 84 by 32 by 5 centimeter, just to have an idea. And yes, it's how our experiences during time of crisis, our priorities change. So through the repetition of the mass-produced material, like the toilet rolls, speak our desire to accumulate things during the threat of a shortage. So, and that was globally now how in supermarkets people were fighting for toilet rolls. And the value here is not about how much it costs, if not how necessary it could be, or how replacement object could be. This is mostly no replacement. We need a toilet paper. Scarcity can permit in social and personal experience, which went through the lockdown. And all these roles, they are being used by me during the lockdown. So there are altogether 64 of them. And of course, as I said before, it became kind of a very powerful material. And I use a kind of a rhomboidic shape just to express and how to present my works. They are both the same. The only thing that is different is the color between both of them.
What I find quite interesting is that, well, on the one hand, there's a relationship of how people went mad about toilet paper at the beginning of lockdown. But in terms of the shape, if you don't tell me that it is toilet paper rolls, I would not imagine. And also the shape in a way, and placed in a church, it somehow decontextualizes the toilet roll paper And it makes you feel almost as if it was a kind of like, it would have a relationship with maybe the iconoclastia, or even like a kind of like symbol of a Mesoamerican tribe, or kind of like the Incas, or even it simulates some of the Incas patterns. So I think that's quite interesting, that if you look at the first sight, it almost seems like a kind of like shamanic image or something. Was it a part of the intentions, Cesar, or not?
Well, I realized after that, because at the beginning I was working with Dan Flavin works, which also he worked with everyday materials and the minimalist way. But also when they finished, remind me to the Chacana, which is the Andean cross. And it was a powerful, it was a representation of the world for the Latin American native, like the Incas, or they were very important, the shape in the way they can. What I mean is also being this piece inside the church, it became more like, I didn't realize that, but it became like a more like a religious object than more than the Dan Flavin, which I started with, the form. Yeah, I mean, it come back in my heritage as well. It's a shape, well, at least in Argentina, we see that everywhere, you know, in decorations, or even in patterns in belts and clothes. So, well, everything come out in this way, really.
Well, I'll thank you, Cesar. This is another of the pieces of Teresa Paiva. These are some of the prints. We can see Christopher Pearson's, Natalie's print. Also, there's a print, a drawing from Ludmila Sigismondo. This is a sculpture of Mandip, and there are the sculpture of the bird is from Paul Hindley, who was also performing. And this piece is from Tom Norris. I think that maybe Giuseppe has an opinion on it.
Yes, I like the piece. Like Cesar one, that being in a church, also this piece, I think, has a strong power, because looks to me, and this comes from my heritage, look at a reliquary where you put saint body parts. I don't know if it was the intention of Tom, but certainly reminds me my experience as a child when I saw the tongue of Sant'Antoni and so on. That the first time I saw the piece, I really liked it. It clicked some emotion. And also what I like is that the construction, it's quite natural, and but became like an object of art, the inside structure, that I think is magical when you play with recycled material. And I think work. Oh, that is your piece that I like to.
So this is part of my piece.
That I saw before in the beautiful installation you did in the
Royal Society of Sculptors. Yeah,
yes, because it's part of a big, beautiful installation, and very powerful. Yeah, but talk about your piece, because please.
Well, this was actually, I mean, maybe we have an image. Well, this is Ana Luisa's piece. Maybe we have another image. That's the hall of the church. This is Lois Bentley's piece. That's Maritina Kellery's piece. And that is from Sasha. I'm trying to find, now you can see the boat. So there's a sinking boat and 3 vultures looking down, and the piece's name, Are We Sinking? So it's actually portraying and questioning the moment we are experiencing now in the world, and if our social system is really working or not, or if we have to reframe it and rethink it. And yeah, I might be getting a place for a permanent exhibition of this piece, so that would be amazing. So going back with the panel, I would like to ask Natalie about a question of our manifesto, or more related to our manifesto. So how do you feel the dialogue between the opposition of the spaces?
Shall I answer this from an artistic point of view, or from a view as a member of our collective?
You can maybe give both answers.
So I think that they are both relating through the line of the horizon from an artistic point of view, and that's why I got the idea to make this work, basically, because I think that's where they meet, like, and yeah, and I think that that's also an answer for the second part, I guess. Tere?
Tere maybe lost connect.
No, here I am. And then, like, going from this, I would like to ask Ana Luisa, do you believe that the impact of our actions have a role in the future?
Oh, definitely. Actually, this is our main goal, to try to create something and to express what we're feeling, to try to, I don't know, transform something and to open the eyes and not do the same mistakes, I guess, just to try to, I don't know, go to a better way, a different perspective. But at one point you said previously about the manifesto, about the outers. I think the whole, topic is about sustainability, about the better way to live and to recycle. Everything is all connection. And I think it's the greatest of the collaborative experience we have, the exhibition, because we are completely different artists for different backgrounds and different way to think and create. But in one point, you still recycle, you still generated thoughts and ideas, and I think this whole space, the sunsets and sunrise, they super related. Is completely, in my perspective, we cannot ignore one to another. It's part of the process, and I really hope to have a good way to see the world in the future.
And when we think about the future, I would like to ask Cesar how, because I know that you haven't been going out much during the lockdown, so I would like to know how was your experience of installing the show, and what do you think and how did you feel on the night of the private view, and what do you think is the next stage after this?
That was someone question? Oh, sorry.
Yes, so well, it's more than one question. I wanted to know, how did you feel like installing the show, and how did you feel during the private view, and how would you see this in the future, or where is it going to take us?
For my point of view, and it was very interesting how it was taking shape, both rooms, even they are so different. And of course, even so they are so different, at the end it's the same thing, in the way, for example, if we see a picture of, you see two pictures, one is the sunrise and the other one is the sunset. Probably you don't know which one is which one. But I think in the exhibition it was very clear, and that create conflict and tension, which make it more interesting. And I think both rooms need another room just to close the concept and make it very clear. And that was because I saw people saw the first room, the sunset, and they are living in another room. And when they saw the second room, they saw the sunrise and then they saw the sunset. They understood completely what it's all about the exhibition. So you need to see the whole installation, because it became one installation at the end, or two installations. Of course, you always have to compromise and adapt. Even the space is very difficult, but I think it worked very well. And about the opening, it was amazing. Everything, it was just perfect. I think how the people stay and enjoy, and actually it was. I didn't feel. I thought it was. If you had to compare, it was the opening was a sunrise and not the sunset.
Yes.
I would agree in that regard, Cesare, because I was not expecting it to be so crowded. And actually, you notice how people are willing to go out, are willing to see culture, are willing to interact.
Yes, they stay as well. And also for the performing art was a beautiful experience. That although I knew the artists and so on, but I was very surprised sometimes because they were just perfect. I want to mention about Teresa, did her piece of dancing with like a Tibetan music of bells that I thought was not only magic, but was just perfect. And you could see the people stay there enchanted. And I think the entire evening was a surprise even for me, I suppose, and really worked quite. Yeah, Cesar is right. It was more a sunrise than a sunset. There was a lot of beauty and hope and beautiful emotion. And people stay longer than a friend of mine stay longer than he wanted to because he was enchanted by the performance. And that was a great thing.
I would agree. That's quite interesting what you're saying, because normally people, when they go to exhibitions, they go, they stay 20 minutes, they see things, they grab a drink and they leave. And I guess there was a very interesting atmosphere that evening. And I was surprised because many people stayed longer than an hour. And we did a very long private view with different performances and using the whole hall of the church, which gave a nice atmosphere, and people could sit in the pews to view performances. And I think it was actually quite beautiful because at the end, churches are spaces for community to gather and to reflect and to share. And it worked well because as the space was big, we could keep social distancing and the regulations on place.
Maybe COVID helped a lot, or the desire to stay with people, but I think they were taking in all the events and the installations that we provide. I think I saw joy and not boredness. So that was great for me.
And maybe Natalie, in your case, I wanted to ask you, because you have experienced the exhibition from Germany, because you haven't been able to travel. So it would be interesting to know as well, how has it been your experience? Because basically you've experienced it online. So
yeah, I just wanted to add to that actually. So it's like, of course, it's a very big pity for me that I could not come because of the impossible regulations, or the regulations which made it impossible to come for building up and seeing it grow, and also to come to the opening. So I only can rely on the images and the videos, and I think everybody did a fantastic job with it. What I really like about the concept of the exhibition is that, because I'm very interested in how space relates to material, to time, and to human connections. And I think this exhibition does this in a splendid way, because you are using like you said, you use like the whole house more or less. You create rooms which are, you can read them as whatever you want, but you can read them, I would see them also as psychological spaces, like time spaces. And so they are like, I would argue they cannot exist without each other, having the same, like without the tension between these spaces. like even the outside space coming in and then going in one condition and then another, and then going outside again. I think that they depend somehow on each other, and that relates for me to human nature, because we have all these conditions, like and we reflect and then we act, and then we reflect and we act, and we have like these peripheric spaces where this exhibition takes place, actually, I think. So that's how I read it. Like, but of course, there's so much more to it. Yeah, online it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy that it makes it possible to participate at all, like to see it and to also be here now. But of course, it cannot like. It is only one aspect, and the tangible aspect, of course, is only there when you touch and you smell, and yeah.
Well, I guess the positive of the online element is that we can connect tonight and we can see it from any part of the world. We are in 3 different cities at the moment, but the downside is maybe that you lose the physical experience. And I think what's very relevant of what you're saying is how we depend on each other and how we coexist. Because sometimes we try to see ourselves as individuals, like an individual and the other, but actually what we do, it impacts on the other one's reaction. And this is all about doing this collective that almost behaves as a social experiment in a way, because we've gathered people from different backgrounds to see how does it work and understand social systems and see if we can work as an horizontal society and relate to different topics that might be relevant. And I guess this is, at least for me personally, is one of the big challenges of the 21st century, is to rethink how do we want to restructure societies as systems are falling down. And I think with the increase of digitalization, how do we use these new technologies, but we also keep our humanity in a way, or our ability of connecting in real presence and time and space, because it may be associated with our more primitive side. And some of these questions, you can see them maybe not directly, but you can see them indirectly in some of the pieces that are currently being exhibited. So we have 10 minutes more from the panel. And before going to our last questions, I would like to know if any of the speakers have a particular question that they would like to address to any of the other speakers who are present tonight.
I want to ask to Anna if you can expand about the piece that I love in the dark room, in the black room, that I was very intrigued. It looks so light and minimalist. I know it's not, but
yeah. Actually, yeah, thank you, Giuseppe. Actually, my practice is always this kind of conflict between objects, and especially for the exhibition, the both works. They have the relation between, it's sunset and sunrise. Specifically, these ones, the title is Ardiente. It's like a fire. You struggle for something, and this the same meaning about you'd like to go out and you stuck, and have this appropriation about the aesthetic, about you playing of the extinction, the for fire to go out, but you stuck in a concrete and cement. And I play with pigment, black pigment, to have this kind of uh, to transform the idea of the heavy about, and my culture and my feelings. When you put powdery, very black powder, you transform the reality like a heavier one. And I play with this kind of synthetic aesthetic appropriation. You think it is light sculpture, but super heavy. I badly carry that because it's about 30 kilos. It's really tricky to manage, But I enjoy to do it, and I have this idea, the whole concept, the relation of this space. I think it's beautiful installing, and I think the whole space, the works were related together. Yeah. I hope I can answer your question, Giuseppe, because sometimes I'm
yeah.
diverge.
Because I enjoy it from formalistic approach. I really love the object and the combination of, yes, no, you answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I try to play with that, this relation between objects, and I have this concept in mind to have the beauty and the meaningless, and this conflict between the
I know other
everyday.
your pieces that play in that sense. They are very interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
And going with this idea of how you try to mix and connect maybe objects that are not totally connected or that normally would not seem connected, I would like to address the last question of tonight to Cesare. So what is your relation with individualism, connection and disconnection in human relations? I think it actually connects to the collective and what we have experienced this last year.
Yeah, well, obviously the lockdown make it all individual but also we are working all together to resolve the problem. As you said before, we every single act repercute in the general or social environment. Individualism also is a very modern approach. Modernism always support the individualism. I imagine this is in the way we are going because of our modernist concept. I know it's how I feel, but I think at the end it's a collective who will save, or we are be saved by the collective more than. I think in that case this exhibition, one person it will be completely different. And as Ana Luisa say as well, we are all different artists, different ages, different countries, different culture, different background, and we come all together, but there is a lot of things in common as well. And that was amazing, really.
I think that's a good words to close tonight. I don't know if any of the speakers has anything else to add. Well, so I would like to invite to everyone who's viewing this panel to come and visit our exhibition. There are a couple of days more to visit. It's going to be open until the 31st of July. We're opening Friday from 5 o'clock on the afternoon until 8 o'clock in the evening, and Saturdays and Sundays from 12 o'clock in the noon to 6 o'clock in the evening, or you can also contact us and try to book an appointment. You can contact us to our Instagram, that's @alter.us. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we hope you have had a nice time and that you visit our exhibition. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.